Hello, and welcome to Women in Business, where we interview entrepreneurs and senior managers and show you the strengths, successes, obstacles, and roadblocks women experience in business. Since I believe every person in business needs to be visible, I'd like to invite you to watch www.sob6, that's the number 6, tips.com, which will give you some valuable information should you get the call to be on radio or TV, which I think is extremely important. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at Gayle Carson, that's Gayle, Gayle Carson 13 at gmail.com, or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter.
Hi, everybody. This is Gayle Carson, and it's going to be a very unusual show today because I'm going to be interviewing me, and I'm going to be talking about how I coach people. I know I've done a session on media training. I've done a session on, mindset training and speaking and that kind of thing. But I want to talk about how I coach people because so many people have asked me, well, I think I'd like to have a coaching program from you, but I don't really understand what's involved with it. I don't know what you do. I don't know how you treat people, all of those kinds of things. So the first thing that I think is important is to know that to me, every single person that I work with is an individual. And even though I do have group coaching programs because they are less expensive than regular one-on-ones, I still treat everybody initially when we're having our first conversation. I treat you as the individual you are. What are you trying to achieve? What is it that you want to have happen? Where do you see yourself going? And if it's a situation where you've never done anything before and you are kind of venturing into this new avenue, whatever it is, for the first time, I may put you in a group coaching program because we start with mindset. We talk about a lot of different things. However, if you've got some experience, if you've got some training, if you've done some workshops, let's say you've done some radio shows, or let's say that you have given some speeches, but you're not where you want to be, then it's an individual coaching program. So what I normally do is find out what you've done. That's number one. We've got to find out what is your history, what have you done, what training have you had, what experiences have you had, and so forth. Then I need to know where is it you want to go. Now, some of you don't even know that. You don't even know what's available to you, and you don't know exactly where you want to go, and that's okay. There are people I work with who just want me to help them compose their speech, or make sure that their speech is a viable one, or that it's the kind of speech that people will pay attention to. Others want to have their own podcasts. So they want to know, how do they do that? How do they get guests? What questions do they ask? How long do they take with each individual? That kind of thing. And that will vary according to, again, the kind of show they want to do. Then there are people who want to get on every TV show they can possibly get on because they want that notoriety and they want that reputation. So I look at everybody as an individual first, and then we create a program for them. And very often people will say to me, well, how much does your program cost? And that's hard to say because it depends on your experience and your background and everything that you're doing. However, I basically give a price of, if it's one-on-one, somewhere between $3,500 to $5,000. Now, it's not have to be paid all at once. It can be paid out. But I do that because I know that will give me time to work with people and get them to where they need to go. Now, they themselves, at the end of that, will assess, do they need more? And you're saying, well, how will they really know? People know. People know if they feel confident. They know if they need more training. They know if they're doing things according to the way they should be done or what they hear. I also caution people, though, not to follow everybody else's path. Sometimes being a contrarian, doing something that's very different, or presenting things in a totally different way is the thing that gets you to where you want to go. And when we look at people, they think it's like magic. People say to me, "Oh, you interview people so easily. You interview people so well." You need to realize I've been doing this for over 40 years. I mean, I started doing radio shows in college. I agree they were not particularly done well, and there were lots of things I've learned, but I've been doing this for a very long time. It's like that overnight sensation. I've only worked 20 years to get to be an overnight sensation. So it's a different thing. And so when I work with people, I can tell whether they are doing the homework. And that's what it takes. It takes homework. It takes study. To this day, folks, I still study. To this day, I go to conferences. As a matter of fact, I'm leaving this weekend for a blogging conference because I don't blog and I want to blog and I want to make sure that when I blog, I have something to say. So I have no idea what this is going to reveal to me. I have no idea if it's going to educate me further. I assume I'm going to learn something or I'd have to be totally dense, but I'm doing it as research. I go to podcast conferences. I go to speaker conferences. I go to all of these things because maybe, just maybe, there'll be 1 or 2 or 3 points, if I'm lucky, that I pick up that will make a difference. And so when I give my coaching students, my coachees, I guess you'd call them, homework, I expect it to be done. I expect them to think about what I've asked them to do, whether it's the way they put their speech together, whether it's what they think about in terms of a proposal for TV, what they're going to talk about, how they're going to react. All of those things are homework assignments that you really need to look at and say, okay, is this something that I I will practice? And a lot of people don't. Everything else takes precedence. Their job, which I understand they have to make a living, their family, which I understand they have to pay attention to. But if this is what they're paying for, and if this is what's important to them, they're going to squeeze out 30 minutes a day to work on this. Now, whether that's getting up a half hour earlier, or whether it's going to bed a half hour later, or depending on what their body clock is like, if they do it during the lunch hour or whatever it happens to be, there is work to get done to get where you want to go. So when I coach people, and I adore coaching people because I love to see people reach their full potential. When I coach somebody, it is very, very hands-on. And I do my homework. I do my research. If I'm working with someone who is in an area that I am not familiar with, which happens, it happens, I look at that area. I research that area. I see what is it they have to do to be successful? Who is it they have to be in touch with? What kind of subjects do they need to cover? Those are all things that are my responsibility if I'm going to be a good coach that I have to do for the people who I'm working with. So when we talk about these kinds of things, it's really, really important. I also have been in a position where I critique sometimes, and I'm not a specialist in this, but people ask me to critique their work or their book that they're writing or something like that. When I do that, I look for what jumps out at me because the only way you're going to get noticed today is to take yourself out of the pack. You've got to do something that's unusual, or you've got to say something that's unusual but truthful, and you've got to get yourself quoted in a way that makes people want to follow your quotes. And I think that's a key criteria of why certain people today are more successful than others. When you look at, for example, things that Seth Godin writes, he's always coming out with kind of a new perspective on things. And so people quote him because he's talking about things that other people haven't quite said yet or thought about. So when you look at what you're writing about, it can't be the same old, same old. And I know that you think it is different than everything that's out there, but I challenge you that if you're writing a book, oh, I don't know, what shall we say, on on, let's say, prosperity. Everybody has a different definition of prosperity. And you can go to the library, you can go to the bookstore, you can go online at Amazon or BNN. You can go up and see all the books that have been written on prosperity. Now, if you were to take 10 of them, just 10 of them, and read them, how different is yours? And probably you're going to find not that different, because we kind of all think in the same way. Now, what does that mean? It means that you've got to find a way to express yourself entirely differently. You've got to be able to say something in a way that people say, wait a minute, I got to read that again. I got to go over that line, because that's different and I haven't heard it before, and I need to pay attention to what this is. And then you've got to give them some exercises on to how they do that, because people may not be able to think of it on their own. So all I'm saying to you is that when you are being coached, whether it's by me or by anybody else, when you are being coached, make sure your coach is part of your team. This is not just somebody that you tune into once a week or once every other week, depending on how your schedule is set up. But this coach is a member of your team. And that's something that I have to tell you that I really resent about some coaches. And that's the fact that you have to really struggle to get an appointment to talk to them. I mean, you may not even have to talk to them. Maybe you just email them. But whatever it is, to get to them, to get a response, is not the easiest thing in the world. And many of your top coaches, let's say not top coaches, but let's say busy coaches or coaches that charge a lot of money or have a huge following, they're not even doing the coaching anymore. They have coaches that coach for them. Now, I'm not saying that they're not good, but if you join a program for, let's say, ABC Coach, and you love and admire ABC Coach, and you love his or her writings and thought processes and so forth, you want to get ABC Coach. But they're now at some horrendous $50,000, $100,000 level, and you can't get to them. So you get to their coaches. And even though their coaches have been trained in their processes, they are not the person at the top. And I pride myself that when I coach somebody, I coach them. Nobody else is coaching them. It's me. And so I think it's important when you start to investigate all of this, what is it that you're looking at? Who are you looking at? Why are you looking at them? And what do you want to accomplish at the very end? And that's why I tell people, well, I think it's going to be 3 months. I think it's going to be 6 months. I don't really know until we start working together, because some people will accomplish in 3 months what other people won't accomplish in a year, simply because A, they work very hard at making it happen. B, they have studied well and they have a very good and unusual message. And C, they have the luck of the draw. I mean, luck plays into some of this, being in the right place at the right time. But whatever it is, I will let the person know. I will say, we're at the halfway mark, and it's going to take another X number of sessions, or we have X number of sessions left. Let's hope you get done in that time. It's going to be up to you if you really step up the pace of the work that you're doing. But again, I am not sure I am the best coach, and let me tell you why. Now, in the industry, there is a feeling that as a coach, you don't tell people what to do. As a coach, you guide them, that you let them do most of the work, and you're a guide. That if you tell them what to do, you're acting as a consultant. Well, I can tell you that I do love telling people what to do. I don't like to have them go off on the wrong path. I don't like them to go experiment on their own if I don't feel that it's going to be good for them, and that's what they're paying me for, to allow them to know this. So I have to say that when I coach, I do tell people what to do. It is not that I sit back, look at what they're doing and say, well, that's very interesting. However, no, I say, what were you thinking of, or where did your mind go, or what made you decide to try that? So I will tell people, what I think that they should be doing, and that's what they're paying me for. So if you want a coach that's going to kind of be namby-pamby or just kind of guide you as you go and not really take exception with what you're saying or even argue with you a little bit, then I'm not the coach for you, because I am going to argue with you if I think you're wrong, and I am going to tell you where I think you're making mistakes. So that's a really, really important part of how you view a coach. So how do you start to coach with me? Well, first of all, you send me a message. I'm at Gayle at Gayle Carson 13 at gmail.com. That's my email address, Gayle Carson 13 at gmail.com. So you just do that. And you will be able to say, I'm interested in having you coach me, and I'd like to have a conversation with you. And then we'll set up a few times that are convenient for us both. You'll choose one, and we'll get together. Now, if you miss that appointment, that kind of tells me who you are. You're not going to take anything seriously. You're not going to do the work. Now, if you say to me, well, look, I've got this emergency. I'm taking my husband to the doctor, or my kid is going into the hospital, or I have whatever it happens to be, I certainly get that. We all have issues. However, when you just don't show up, that signals to me, we're not going through this again. So it's important that we start things off right. So the first thing is to get in contact with me. We make an appointment to have a conversation, and then you decide after we talk, am I the person for you? And I decide, am I the person for you? Because there are people that I should not be coaching. We're just not simpatico, and it just wouldn't work. So that's how it goes. And then we formulate a program. I tell you what it's going to be. You agree, you disagree, we work it out, whatever it happens to be. And it's not just, I put you in this program. Now, if you say to me, well, I really want to be part of the group coaching program, it's going to be less money. It's going to be maybe 6-8 people at a time. We normally meet once or twice a month. You are given assignments. And one of the calls in a month may be a report on the assignments and suggestions. Another would be the actual coaching part of it. And we go from there. And it's a longer program because naturally with a group, it takes longer than one-on-ones. So those are the things that are a little bit different and may have an impact on how you think and what you want to do. Now, the question might be from you, have I had really great coaches? And have I had really bad coaches? And the answer is yes to both of them. I will say that in some instances, it has definitely been my fault. I live a very complicated, busy life, and I have not always been able to keep up with all of the assignments, simply because just things happen in my day. As scheduled as I am and as good as I am at time management, there's just things that happen in my life because I am alone and I run my life in a lot of different compartments, and some of them get a little more anxious than others and take effect more than others. So I am to blame for much of this because I can't keep up with the work that's been assigned to me. So that's a red flag for you. If I give you an assignment, don't get behind, keep up, and then we move quickly. For those coaches that have been beneficial to me, I do much better when somebody says, do this, than when somebody says, okay, you have a couple of choices here, or, this is what we need to have happen. I want somebody to say, pick up the phone and make 5 phone calls a day, or I want a story from you written about the biggest thing that's happened to you in the last 5 days, and I want it in 500 words and by Friday. I do very well with that. I'm really good with following instructions and deadlines and things like that. That's my forte. I do really well with that. On the other hand, when it's wishy-washy and I'm left up to my own devices, I very often go off track. So you need to understand, again, who do you want as your coach and what works for you? So for me, I've had some really great coaches and I've had some real disasters. And I won't mention any names because that doesn't do anybody any good. But I do think that it's important to be aware of this. So when we talk about, what is coaching? I mean, coaching, I don't think 10, 20 years ago, nobody knew what a coach was. A coach might have been a football coach, a basketball coach, a speech language coach, that kind of thing. But in the last 10 years, coaching has really blossomed. There are a lot of programs to certify coaches, which are very good. I don't have those. I am not a certified coach. I am a certified speaking professional. I am a certified management consultant. I am elected to the FIMC, which is being a fellow for the Institute of Management Consultants. I do have a doctorate in education. So all of those things go into my ability to coach, but I don't have coaching certifications, and I don't want to pretend that I do, because that's not a strength of mine. So, what you're hearing from me now is the real skinny on coaching, because people have asked me, okay, so how do we get in touch with you, and how do we start working with you? So again, my website, as you probably know, is spunkyoldbroad.com. My email is Gayle Carson, Gayle Carson 13 at gmail.com. So you've got that, and you can really send me anything by email that you want me to answer. You can go to my website and see if you are able to work with anything that I have there. The most important thing is I want everybody to understand that I'm only as good as you are. If you follow what I tell you, you will have a successful career in whatever you want to do as far as what I'm coaching you in. If you do not listen to what I have to say and do not do the work, you're probably going to still fumble around. But know that my goal is to make you extremely successful. Because if you're successful, that means I'm successful. And if I'm successful, then other people will want me to coach them as well. So it's all a part of this mission that we're all on. And just to, again, acquaint you with the other things that I do, you do know that I train people to get on radio and television. And I was an icon at the New Media Summit, which has about 35 or 40 icons of influence who are podcasters, and we have people pitch us. We had 150 people pitch us, and so many people went over the time of their pitches. They went around in circles with their stories. Well, how I train you for TV will be the same way you get trained to do a presentation in front of people at something like the New Media Summit, because you will get your message out in 45 seconds and maybe a minute or a minute 15. You have 2 minutes to make a pitch. Some people did it extremely well. Others went 1 and 2 minutes over, and we still didn't know what they were talking about. So you don't have to tell your whole story in that 2 minutes. If I was to do a pitch, I was, because I was doing pitches for women 50 plus, or actually for this particular one, I was doing it for all people over 50. I would say I work with people over 50, and they are called the new unemployables, yet they all need work and want work. So I talk about the 3 worst mistakes you can make when starting a second career. Well, my gosh, that says it all, and I don't think I even took 30 seconds. So that's the one thing I do. Then I also train you in mindset, how you think about life, how you think about what you do, how you approach everything you do. Because if your mind is not set right, then everything you do is not going to be set right. So that's all a part of that as well. So, that's why I encourage you, whatever it is that you're wanting to work on, I also show you how to reinvent yourself. I have reinvented myself 10 to 12 times from the time I first started out as a kid. So I'm really an expert in reinventing yourself. So in fact, they used to call me the reinvention guru. So if any of you are looking for, I really do need to, I'm not happy with where I am, and I'm not happy with who I am. And no, I don't want to get on TV. And no, I mean, I think I just want to know how to reinvent myself. Well, I have a program on that as well.
Right.
So hopefully all of this has spurred some interest in the things that I do. And you know me from my shows. You know that I care about you. I care about what you're doing. I care about how you present yourself to the world. And I want you to get where you want to go. So I can't say any more than that. And hopefully I will hear from some of you. The best way to reach me is by email, because I check that every day, probably 3 times a day. So I will definitely get back to you, and I will let you know what is happening. And I hope that you will continue to listen to my shows, Women in Business, Living Regret Free, and the SOB radio show, which is specifically for women 50 plus. So again, thanks for listening. I hope I'll hear from you soon, and look forward to speaking with you in the future on my radio shows.
Thanks for listening to Women in Business. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you have any suggestions as to who you'd like me to have as a guest, just email me at gaylecarson13@gmail.com. Be sure to check out www.sob6tips.com. And in the meantime, go to www.spunkyoldbroad.com to see the resources I have for you.